All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, we are live in full effect with the one, the only, the legendary West Coast artist, producer, and the official DJ for Mac 10. We got Young Trey right here on the line. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, what's going on, DJ Immortal? Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, I gotta say thank you. I've been a fan of your work for a long time, Trey, so thank you so much for just giving us a little bit of your time this evening.
Appreciate that. Yep.
And I gotta ask you, like, taking you back to the start, Trey, like, what actually made you decide to get into the music industry initially?
Oh man, it's a long story. I can tell you, I can run through it briefly, but I did a lot of things in my youth, DJ Immortal, and I got into some trouble and caught a case with the feds. I did some time in the feds, and while I was doing time in the feds, I got into music. I started producing for all the rappers on the yard. I started writing lyrics myself. And then when I got out, when I touched down, I immediately went in the studio and started working on my music. And this was like in 92 when I started working on my music. But that's the time when I got into making beats. When I found my true talent of making beats and writing was when I was incarcerated in the feds.
And I have to say, Trey, you make some of the finest beats out on the West Coast as well. And I was wondering, if you actually have any that you are willing to sell, how do individuals get a hold of you to actually buy some of those legendary beats off you?
They can reach me on Instagram or Facebook, either one of those social medias, or Twitter. Twitter at Young Trey, or Instagram, Notorious Young Trey, or Facebook at Facebook. Just type in Young Trey, and they can reach me on any of those social media sites.
And also, as well, as I already mentioned during the introduction to your interview, you are the official DJ for Mac 10. I was wondering, how did you and Mac 10 meet? Like, what's the story behind that?
Back again, me being in the feds. I was locked up with Mac 10's cousin, Ray Land from Arizona, and Ray Land would always talk about his cousin as a rapper, and he in the music, but he didn't call him Mac 10 at the time we was locked up. So he had called. He called home, and I talked to Mac 10, but I think he was calling him Dedrick or something, because that's his real name. And when I touched down, Ray Land got out around the same time, and he kept telling me about his cousin as a rapper, and he's supposed to have a big deal. But I was underestimating the situation. Like I didn't really take him serious. He was like, Trey, I'm out here in L.A. Come up to Fox Hills Mall. I want you to meet my cousin, Dedrick. He a rapper. He got a deal. I'm like, all right, Ray, I'm going to be up there. I'm working on the beat right now, but as soon as I'm done, I'm going to get up there. Long story short, I didn't go, and I missed the For Life record. So later on, about a couple of years later, I was at a guy house named Willa. Willa had a production company, Solid Productions. And I was at Willa's house in the Valley in L.A. Working on some records for the Comrades. And then Mac 10 showed up. Me and Mac 10 exchanged numbers, and he called me that night, and he said, he was like, Young Trey, my cousin Ray Land. And I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, I'm Mac 10. I said, okay. I said, he the one that you was, that he kept telling me about. He kept telling me about you. He was like, yeah. So we put two and two together, and that's how we really got together. And I think the reason why me and Mac 10 did so much music together was on the strength of his cousin Ray Land. You know what I mean? So that's how that happened, man.
And I gotta say, it's actually like it's kind of extraordinary. It just proves that situation right there was meant to be. Like you didn't show up. Few years later, it still happened. So that was fate right there. And I gotta say, you guys make the dynamic duo. I was watching some of your YouTube videos of Mac 10 performing, and you actually on the DJ, man. I gotta say, you guys actually do a phenomenal show, man. It makes me wish I was out on the West Coast.
Hey, man, when we do shows, we have fun. But originally T-Bone was his DJ. But T-Bone from Lynchmob, Q's folks. So when Mac 10 went on tour about 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, he went on tour, and T-Bone couldn't make it. So Mack 10 called me and asked me if I would be his DJ, because I'm not a DJ, I'm a producer, you know. And he asked me if I would DJ for him on this tour, and I said yeah. And we went out there and got down, and I've been DJing for him for the last 15 years now.
And I have to ask you, when you first actually like jumped on the DJing thing, and when you said you weren't a DJ, did you do it like years before that, like a couple times, or were you like fresh on the DJ scene, just hopped on the ones and twos and just made it happen?
That was my first time ever doing anything like that. But when you're a producer, DJs and producers kind of think alike. You know, we know about drops, we know how to, you know, rock a crowd, so to speak. So it's like the same thing. It's just DJing, you playing somebody else's music, producing, you making your own. So it was like the same. It wasn't too much different. It's just that in his show, you got to know when to do drops, you got to know when to stop the song, you got to know how to pull up particular songs that he wants you to play. But I caught on like it wasn't nothing for me to get the hang of it, you know.
Especially being around an individual for so long, you know what I mean? You kind of already know how they operate and how they work, so it probably must have been easy for you to actually be able to find those drops.
Oh, absolutely. But even still, like as we did more shows, they kind of coached me. Him and Wavy kind of coached me. Wavy is his road manager, and you know they kind of coached me and was telling me different things that I should probably do during the show. So it was progress. You know, it didn't just I didn't just, you know, start DJing for him and it was just special. But over a period of time, you know, I got the hang of it, and you know, so I enjoy that though, man. It's, you know, me and Mac went all over the country, man. That you know, DJing for him was a lot of fun. Still is, you know.
And I have to ask you as well, back in 1998, you actually worked with MC Ren of NWA on his album Ruthless for Life on the track CPT All Day. I have to ask you, what was it like working with MC Ren, and of course, how did you guys meet?
Again, back to Willa from Solid Productions. Willa had he got a production company called Solid Productions, so he wanted to sign me as a producer to his production company, and one of the first artists that he landed one of my beats on was MC Ren. And, you know, I met Ren up at Echo Sound Studios, and he laid his vocals, and it was a pleasure meeting Ren. You know, I was a big fan of NWA, so, you know, meeting him was like a great thing to do. You know what I mean? It was a cool session, and Ren is a cool dude, for real.
And I have to say, in my personal opinion, he is probably one of the most lyrical MCs actually out on the West Coast, man. Like his contribution to NWA, he was always my favorite MC within that group.
Right. Yeah, Ren's voice was definitely hands down one of the best voices out of NWA. You know, so it was a great milestone in my career to say that I worked with an NWA member like Ren. You know what I mean? And then shortly after that, I started working with Cube, you know, so, yeah, it was cool.
And also, in the same year of 98, you actually released your album titled What You Need. I have to ask you, what's the inspiration behind that phenomenal record? And, of course, is it available to be purchased today?
Yeah, What You Need is available on every site, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music. You can pick it up pretty much anywhere. But when I was producing for different artists, I was also working on songs for myself. So at that time, I was shopping for a deal for myself, and nobody wanted to sign me, you know, as an artist. So a friend, it's another one of those crazy stories. A friend of mine named Bink, he's got a buddy named Mo Harris. We call him Maurice Harris. You know, and it may sound crazy, but Mo is on death row, and he's a good dude, man, but he got caught up in the situation, ended up on death row, and his mother passed away and left him a substantial amount of money. So he called me and said, Trey, I want to put an album, I don't want to put this label together called More Money, let's do an album. So we got in the studio, and we recorded the What You Need EP, and put it out as a test run to see how it would do, and it was doing pretty good, you know. And that's how that EP came together, because I wasn't planning on putting out no record, but Mo wanted to do it in a hurry, and we did it, you know.
And it sounded like your homie Mo there actually, and it actually sparked the hip hop artist in you, man. Because since then, you've actually released quite a few records.
I released quite a few records.
Cause I know tonight at midnight you're going to be dropping one of your singles, and you also have the Unreleased as well.
Oh yeah. Nah, I put out a record called Young Trey Unreleased. I took advantage of this pandemic shutdown. You know what I mean? Because they got the industry shut down. A lot of mainstream artists don't want to release none of their music. So I say this would be a great time for me to release, all the music that I have in my archive. So the Young Trey Unreleased album I actually wrote from 1992, 93, 94. I recorded that record. And some unforeseen situations occurred again. Like, my life is crazy, man. Some unforeseen things happened to stop me from finishing up that record at that time. So we didn't put the record out. And then a few more things that I put together I wasn't able to complete. But recently, during this shutdown, it just seemed like a smart thing to do for me to put out all of the music that I ever done, since the mainstream artist is not releasing any music and the industry is kind of shut down. I just took advantage of it. You know what I mean? And it may be dated, but it still sounds good,
And I'm going to be honest, sometimes like the industry really needs that dated sound, because unfortunately today's hip hop sound, and it's hard for me to even call it hip hop, but some of this mainstream new sound really, to me, it really isn't hip hop. So it's refreshing to hear some music from that year that no one else has heard.
Absolutely. I respect what these youngsters are doing today. I like it. I'm bumping J Stone right now. I'm bumping P Grizzly. So I'm digging these youngsters and what they're doing. But when it comes to soul, and when it comes to warmth, that natural raw sound, end of the 80s, early 90s, that captures that sound. You know what I mean? But I love music, period. So everything that's going on right now for me is banging, just like everything that was going on in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s,
And speaking of, when we're still on the topic of your newest release of the Young Trey Unreleased, I have to ask you, do you have any like hard copies available for the individuals that really do still love that compact disc format?
I'm in the process of making that happen. I'm talking to a few companies right now about pressing up some hard copies. So I figure in the next month or two, I should have hard copies to sell.
Most definitely. I'm going to be honest. That was a question I was asking you for myself, because I really wanted to get myself a hard copy. I got the digital copy, but sometimes it's being able to hold the case and look at the booklet while you're jamming to the music is a surreal feeling.
Absolutely. And with today's technology, it's pretty easy to forget about CDs and hard copies. But I think that right there, it becomes personal with potential fans when they can actually hold the material in their hands. You know what I mean? But it's just with today's technology, we tend to forget about CDs and that type of thing, because the technology is just so advanced. You really you don't even think about it no more. But I'm talking to a few people, so I'm gonna get all the material that I just released. I'm gonna eventually get hard copies of it to sell.
And also, taking you back there a little bit as well, you also done work with the legendary West Coast hip-hop artist Mad CJ Mack. I have to ask you, how did yourself and CJ get connected? And of course, what was it like actually being in the studio with him?
Man, I met CJ at the beach probably in 92 or 93, 1992, 1993. And we from the same neighborhood, but like CJ a little older than me, so we in different age brackets, so we never crossed each other's paths in the neighborhood. But I met CJ in 92, 93, and we started, right off the bat, man, we started getting down musically. And CJ became like my brother, man. That's a good dude. I consider him a good friend, and we made some good music, man. Him and Doug and Crazy Tunes came out to my mother's house, where I was producing music at, back in like, I want to say 97ish, somewhere around there. And we went to a record store in Norwalk and picked up a couple of records, and we came DJ like, man, I want you to sample these pieces and make a beat off of these sounds. And I sampled the sounds and created the beat right there on the spot. The next day we went to the studio. We had PQ, the little R&B singer named PQ, came in and dropped the hook. And after that, they shot a video, and that ended up being his first single, CJ's first single. Imagine That. That's the name of it. Imagine That.
And I have to say as well, one of CJ's songs that I really still enjoy is "Come Take a Ride." That joint I still play like it came out yesterday.
Oh yeah, it's a classic song. That's classic for real.
And also, in 2003, you actually worked on West Side Connection's Terrorist Threats record, where it actually peaked at number 3 on the top R&B and rap Billboard charts. I have to ask you, how does it feel knowing that your work was top 3 in your entire country?
Man, that whole situation was phenomenal to me, to be honest with you. That whole experience was unbelievable because we had just finished the Mack 10 Ghetto Gutter and Gangster record, which I did pretty much 90% of that record. And Q came up there and he was listening to the tracks and he was like, man, who did that? He's like, Trey did that. Okay, we went to the next one. He's like, oh, that's banging. Who did that? He's like, Trey did that. So when it came time for the West Side Connection record, Mac told me to submit some beats, and I gave him a CD full of beats, man, and they picked 3 of them. You know, ended up being Call 911, which is a phenomenal track. Potential Victims, I created that like after I dropped Call 911 with him. I went home and created Potential Victims and submitted that one track, and they picked it. Don't Get Out of Pocket was on that CD I gave them, and they liked that one too. So I ended up landing 3 songs on that West Side Connection record, man. And they ended up asking me to go to Chicago with them to finish up Barbershop 2 and to mix down that West Side Connection record. It was an excellent experience, man, for real. And it was a lot in the making. We had a lot of plans to do Ice Cube record, to do a Mack 10 record, to do a Mack 10 Presents the Hood record, another Ice Cube record, West Side Connection record. There was a lot of plans and a lot of things going on that was real exciting about that time, man. And that whole experience was phenomenal, for real.
And the one thing I do have to ask you pertaining to West Side Connection, and you can skip this question if you want to, but like, what made the group actually like break up or stuff like that? Because I remember West Side Connection was one of the hottest trios like in the early 2000s.
I really don't know the details on the breakup. I just know that it affected me greatly. I don't know the details. I just know that there was an altercation and that couldn't be resolved, and that's about all that I would say about it, because I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I just say that, man. It's you know, it just was an unfortunate situation. You know, it happened.
And also, you own and operate your own production company by the name of Hoodstas and Crime Products. I have to ask you, what made you decide to start your own production company? And of course, what kind of services do you offer to the general public?
What made me start Hoodstas and Crime Production is nobody would sign me as an artist. Everywhere we went, we shopped deals, and they would say, you know, I like your music, but it's very violent. You know, it sounds too violent, you know, but your production is phenomenal. We see you as a producer. So everybody was telling me that they see me as a producer. They wanted to buy my tracks. So me and my homeboy, my childhood friend, Chemo 60, we threw a couple of names around it, then we came up with Hoodstas and Crime, you know, because of the neighborhood we're from. And we put the production company together, and I started making beats specifically to sell. All my other tracks I was making was for me to rap on, but at that particular time I started creating music, you know, to sell to other artists. So I would say, okay, NCA to sound good on these tracks, so I go make some NCA beats. I would say, you know, Mack sound like he might be good on this one, so that's when I created Chicken Off 2 and those beats. I was like, Dub C might like this, and I just started making beats for different artists that I thought they might like, you know, like that type of vibe. And submitting my tracks everywhere, man. But Willa from Solid Productions was one of the first real situations that pulled me in, and you know, landed that first track with Ren, and you know, that's how Hustle and Time came together. That's why I started that production company.
And also, I noticed on YouTube, May 28th, 2018, you posted a video on YouTube titled The Life of Young Trey, 33 BC. I was wondering, where can our listeners actually watch that motion picture documentary? And of course, what can they expect from it if they haven't seen it already?
It's on my YouTube channel, Young, the number 3, and then Trey, Young 3 Trey on YouTube. So youtube.com/Young3Trey. And if you just scroll through my videos, you'll see that particular one that you're talking about, and several others. I just really, I'm just a creative person. So I just put that little video together just out of boredom, you know. I'm just a very creative person, man. A lot of people don't know that about me because of my background, you know. Even in my heyday, running the streets, when I actually got time to myself to sit down at home, I was working on music. I was listening to music. I was purchasing equipment. You know what I mean? And I would draw. You know, I'm just a creative person. So when it comes to making album covers or putting little videos together in my world, I just do that type of stuff. You know what I mean?
And do you think, like, maybe you might take that trailer and actually create a full-fledged documentary sometime soon? Because I really do think that, people hearing your story would be a phenomenal thing.
I got an awesome story to tell, DJ Immortal. Real talk. My story is phenomenal, and I plan on writing a book eventually. And I was talking to my boy Money Griff from the Trap. And we talking about doing short films. You know, we talking about doing a lot of creative things in the future, man. But definitely thinking about writing a book and then eventually doing a full documentary on my life, because you know, for people halfway around the world or even other parts of the country that don't really know me would be interested in knowing about my life and my history. You know what I mean?
And I most definitely agree with that, Trey, because I already know during this interview, I probably haven't even covered not even a third of your career, so, you know what I mean? So, I actually was sitting back doing the research for this interview, knowing I couldn't ask everything, and that's the one thing that stumps me, when people have so much info, and I'm like, damn, what am I actually going to ask?
Yeah. Man, like I said, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in the 60s. That's the neighborhood, you know, same neighborhood Nipsey Hustle grew up in. I didn't really know Nipsey. Nipsey came up to my studio maybe twice. I had a studio on El Centro in Sunset, and they was working out of the studio around the corner from my studio. So the homie Mad Dog brought Nip up there a couple of times. But we, you know, I grew up in the same hood as them, but the age difference is so big between us that I didn't know them. I didn't grow up with him and Jay Stone and Pac-Man and Cubby Supreme and Cuzzy. All them is youngsters to me. You know what I mean? But we all from the same neighborhood. It's just a big old age gap between us. You know what I mean? But growing up in the 60s, man, it was in the 80s, particularly when gang activity was at its highest peak, seemed like, you know what I mean? You would be blessed to survive that era, for real. And so many homies got their heads took off in the 80s around LA. It was really a stunt to grow up in that time and be from my neighborhood where I grew up at. You know what I mean? And you know, it's just it's incredible, man. My life to come from, you know, gang banging and selling dope, going to the feds, doing time, and coming home and jumping in the music game and doing music. You know, actually producing it and having an opportunity to be great. You know, coming from that type of life, to doing something where you could actually be great couldn't have been nothing but a blessing from God, man, for real. You know, because I done been in situations where I could have lost my life several times, DJ Immortal. I shouldn't even be here, real talk, because I done been in situations where I should have lost my life, man. And to be talking to you about music and to have such a catalog that I do have is just a blessing, man. I'm really thankful, really. And I commend the homies from the hood that's putting it down, and just these young cats in general, all across the world, particularly the nation, you know, the United States. These young cats that's out here getting it and trying to make their life better, man. I commend them, you know, and I advise all these youngsters that's doing music and making good money, streaming big. I advise these guys, man, to take their money and follow Nipsey's pattern, man. Invest, you know, get into franchise businesses, you know, get into property, you know, make that money do something, man. Help others with that bread. You feel me? So, yeah, man, I got an incredible story to tell, and I'm gonna tell it one day, you know.
And also, tonight at midnight, you were actually releasing your single titled Majestic Hustle. I have to ask you, can you tell us a bit more about that record? And of course, where can our listeners buy themselves a copy of that single or stream it?
The record is due to drop tomorrow. Actually, between now and the 11th of December, it will be available on iTunes, it will be available on Spotify, and Apple Music, and about 30 other streaming sites. Majestic Hustle is just a song about, you know, about me, you know, in the game, you know, basically operating at midnight, you know, at nighttime when the street is clear, you know, you can see everything. You know, there's nothing that's going to creep up on you at that time of night when the streets is empty and you getting down, you know, you in the game getting down doing your stuff, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, if it's on the illegal side, you know, you wanna get down at that time when the streets is clear, and especially when you're moving weight. So Majestic Hustle is about excellence in your ability to hustle. You know what you're doing. You've been doing it for years, and you got it. It's just the epitome of hustling. That's where the majestic part of it come in. You know what I mean? And you know, a lot of real hustlers know what I'm talking about. You know, and it's just talking about the game. You know, get down, selling whatever you're selling, and there's a part in there talking about you know the feds is watching, the FBI is watching. I mean, that's a little paranoia that go on in the game. You think everybody's watching you, even though ain't nobody looking at you, but you just think that. You know what I mean? So, Majestic Hustle, man, is just a song about me talking about, you know, back in the day being in the game and getting down, you know, on that level, you know.
And I want to say to everybody that is listening, make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that single. Make sure you buy yourself a copy or at least stream it. Support the real and most definitely support Young Trey.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
And I got to ask you, Young Trey, like, what's next for you? Is there anything I happened to miss during this interview? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote? We still have you here live on the radio?
Well, between 2021 and 2023, I'll be dropping 3 albums. My first album is going to be titled Street Life, and the reason why I call it that is because I'm a start from the mud. I'm going to let y'all know, you know, how I was getting down in the streets, you know, and my knowledge on the game, and you know, how to basically accumulate a little bit of money from the streets. And then my next record is going to be called $1 Billion Thoughts. And when you get your bread out the streets, you got to take that money and invest it in the franchise businesses, property, you know, stock, you know, put that money to work. You know, if you're risking your life to get out there and hustle and grind and get your bread, the next step is to have $1 billion thoughts to put that money to work and get into the legal game with that dirty money. And then the album after $1 Billion Thoughts is going to be biblical music, Because once you reach a level of success and a level of wealth, you know, and you conquered everything that you want to do, you reached all your goals, you're going to have to talk to God. You know, biblical music is coming from an angle where I'm going to terrify the planet with biblical music. That's going to be my last record out of the three. I'm going to be dropping little gems in between albums. You know, I'm going to be working with, like I say, Money Grip from the Trap and MP. I'm going to be working with my boy Bigfoot and Stump Down Productions and a little homegirl, Jasmina, the girl Jazzo, that's what she calls herself. I'm going to be doing things with my nephew, Rico. Rico is off the chain. Anybody that want to hear something that's fly, check out my nephew, Rico. I'll be posting some links on my social media sites about him. But, yeah, me and the homies, Chemo 60, and my brother Young, we're going to put this thing together. And, you know, I want to give a shout-out to my manager, Doug Young, and Steve McIntosh. It was my management situation. And they've been managing me for years. Right now, it's not a situation where I need to be managed, but when that situation do occur, they definitely going to be there to take that position back, you know. Give a shout-out to Mac 10, the whole West Side Connection crew, the Who Bangin' crew, all the homies from the neighborhood, you know, my mother and my father, my beautiful wife, Ruth, and my daughters, Raven, Ryan and Robin, my son, Trayvon Green, you know, yeah, man. And I appreciate you having me on, DJ Immortal, for real. This mean the world to me, man, for real.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Trey. It actually means a lot to me as well. Like I said, I grew up listening to your music. I've been a fan for a long time of your production work, everything you've done. So just thank you for everything you've done for hip hop, man, because you helped give birth to some legendary, amazing projects.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And I gotta say, Trey, thank you so much for taking the time out again. And I want to say, hopefully we can make this happen in the future. But for now, stay safe out in Cali, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you again soon.
Absolutely, man. Keep in touch with me.
Hey, man, most definitely. I'm only a message away. Thank you so much, Trey.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Have yourself a wonderful night.
You too.